Hello, welcome to ACR 204 Crime, Media and Justice. Today I'll be doing a presentation on Francis Knorr. Francis Knorr was an immigrant who relocated from London to Sydney. From London to Sydney, she married her husband, Mr. Knorr. However, her marriage didn't last long as she had an affair with her future husband, and then they made the move to Brunswick, the area of Brunswick where the notorious murders of the baby farming murders occurred. On 1893 of April, she was on trial for killing two babies. At this time, in 1893, it was a tough period in society because even Australia wasn't even formed, which was formed in 1901. Therefore, society wasn't adapted and equipped to deal with these murders. Many people during that time began to work as a baby farmer. A baby farmer's priority was just to take care of a baby, be a carer, or pretty much just take after babies who lack discipline and need a bit of structure. We will discuss more about Francis Knorr in the coming slides. In February 1892, Australia was in the midst of a depression and jobs were scarce as there was not much employment at the time. Rudolf Knorr was the husband at the time to Francis Knorr and was sent to prison for selling furniture he had bought on a hire purchase. Francis Knorr decided to set up a business as a childminder. She moved away from Melbourne frequently using her maiden name and married names. Frances Knorr strangled some of the babies she could not place elsewhere or sell to childless couples. Therefore, when she relocated to Sydney, police were notified to Moreland Road house where the baby farming occurred and found two bodies that were classified as two babies. The babies' findings at the backyard of the Moreland Road house ultimately began the trial in April. In 1893, Francis Knorr was labelled solely responsible for the baby farming murders. The way she was depicted throughout the media at that particular time was a very clever, and also it allowed the audience to know what kind of person she actually was. The use of her name labelled in black and white just gives a bit of a direction to the audience knowing what kind of person she is, but also having the message underneath her labelled as the condemned woman gives a bit of a negative connotation to the audience. As we see now clearly depicted in modern day society news, we have color printings that can also identify a perpetrator very well. But unfortunately at that time, sketching was the only way a woman could be identified or any perpetrator could be identified. At the bottom of the picture there's a little paragraph, the synopsis of the events of how the baby farmers occurred, but also how at the end of the day she was caught for being solely responsible for the murders. The baby farming murders did not just have an effect on those people who were involved in the case, but also the general community was affected as well. People were polarized as what to believe at the time of the trial. The Francis Knorr case was publicized with different slogans and information at different times, therefore presented people to be sitting on the fence by making a decision of what to believe. Mostly females believed that she was innocent due to the good reputation and business that she had running of the baby farming business. On the other hand, males believed that she was solely responsible for what she did and that she should be punished for the murders of those two innocent babies. Thomas Jones is another individual who was severely affected by this case, as he'll be delved in and mentioned in the next slide. In 1893, the Francis Knorr case took a different turn as she was ultimately guilty of the crimes that she committed in the baby farming murders. The verdict was that she was to be hanged at the Old Melbourne Jail in the coming days. Executioner Thomas Walker Jones performed mainly a lot of executions for the most notorious murderers at that time in Melbourne. However, as we've seen here, the Francis Knorr case did not only affect the people that were in the community, but also affected people involved in going to perform the execution. Francis Walker ultimately killed himself 2 days prior to the execution of Francis Knorr. He could not go to terms with having to kill Francis Knorr as he believed that morally it was wrong that to murder a woman for a crime that she did. Therefore, this ultimate effect not only had an effect on him, but also had an effect on his family as well. A few hours prior to Frances Knorr being hung at the Old Melbourne Jail, she wrote a confession to state what she believes was her honest account of herself. As I feel I have not expressed myself clearly, I now desire to state that upon the charges known in evidence as number 1 and number 2 babies, I confess to be guilty. Placed as I am now within a few hours of my death, I express a strong desire that this statement may be made public, with the hope that my fall will not only act as warning together, but also act as a deterrent to those who are perhaps carrying the same practice. Also, another important information that was published in the newspaper the next day was that she was well aware that she was guilty of the crime, but also, as soon as the police authorities surfaced her door, she knew that she was in trouble, and that the only way she could possibly get out of trouble was to blame it on her second ex-husband, Mr. Thompson.